Well, we can call the meeting in order, as long as Greg is still standing. Do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Okay, we got a agenda in front of us. Is there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
No move.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. We have the previous minutes from the board meeting of January 2nd. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Hello.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Public comment. Now is the time for anybody who would like to come forward and make a public comment. If you do, come forward and state your name and where you're from. And
Is this a time that we can ask questions, like general questions, or just statements?
statements. Yep.
Statements.
Yep.
Okay, I'll come up.
Okay.
Okay. My son Riker and I are here today just to introduce ourselves to y'all. We're starting a business together and learning the landscape and legislation around the business that we're going into. So we're just here to meet all of you and introduce ourselves and get a feel for how the meetings go, and hoping for your guidance and help in understanding how we do what we are hoping to do together.
Okay.
What kind of business?
Well, we want to go into CBD and THC when it's ready in Houston County, and open up a dispensary. And we're in the early phases, but we have capital and financing ready to go, and looking for the early stages. Like I said, the legislation is extremely complicated, and we have local legislation to pay attention to. And I dug and did some research on county level action and kind of hit a brick wall there. And I know there's a lot of understanding to come, but that's where we're hoping for guidance.
Well, we as a county, there's very little guidance for us too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, this is all being run by the state. They're doing the licensing. Did you pre-register? I don't know if do they have a pre-register?
We didn't pre-register. We're just now starting the licensing. We're working with some folks that are owners in other states that are already legalized, and running dispensaries in other states, and have operations that are already up and going. I've met through my professional network doing brokerage work, which is actually my first job. And Riker was starting to learn that, but it didn't interest him. But we see an opportunity here for the county and locally to do something pretty interesting. So that's where we're at, is we're licensing and we're learning. That's why we're here today.
What was your name?
Dustin Schroeder, Mountain Prairie, on 21. And this is Riker Thompson. It's my son.
I guess we're all learning too, because what the state is working on, they haven't even finalized their plans.
Right.
Looking a year out, I guess we're
Well,
still trying to figure out.
it's all
what we're
going to be
doing.
run through the Office of Cannabis, which hasn't been set up yet as of yet. They don't have a leader yet. They're working on, they had an interim and that person quit now too, so. And as far as our local jurisdiction, they only gave us a couple of things that we can do if we, decide to do that. So are you looking to have it out in the country or out in?
I'm not sure. We haven't selected property yet. That's part of the process. So we're probably pretty close to 12 months out from trying to open doors. We're working on all the back end stuff, including the licensing, which we were advised is the very first and most important piece. So the state my understanding, at least as of last week, they do have someone in the leadership position. And we're hoping to go up and meet that person as well. So that's kind of where we're starting, but yeah, like I said, we just came to introduce ourselves, obviously being, I'm already a local business owner. I do insurance brokerage and consulting work for tribal nations, and Riker is following in the footsteps of opening up a business, and I want to do everything I can to help him do that. And I figured y'all would be a piece of that equation.
Okay.
So good to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll don't have any appointments. Next up is the approving of the consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look at that.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
No second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved. So with that, Rob, thank you, and you're on for another 4, is that it?
That's all a commitment.
Moving on to action items, number 1, consider adoption resolution number 2405, authorization to use alternative method to disseminate bids and requests.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Yep, so this is something that gets done every year by the county. It's been this way for, I believe, a decade plus. Minnesota statute 331 8.03 subdivision 3B allows the county to use alternative method to disseminate bids and requests for roadway projects, for highway stuff. So contractors like to go out to one source to go and get all their information for bidding projects and seeing results. And so what the county does is we post our bids on county websites, and we put stuff in the newspaper as well, along with using Quest CDN for advertising on our construction projects. That's where contractors typically will go and get the information for what's out there for bidding and stuff. So nothing new this year, but this is something that gets done either at the first or second board meeting each year.
So everybody's had a chance to read the resolution and heard Brian's comments on it. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Resolution passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Number 2, consider resolution adopting 2406, opposition to resigning the state flag and seal. Now, this is pretty much identical what Crow Wing County did. And on top of that, we got an email from the sheriff saying that just for his department alone, it will cost $32,000 for shirts, coats, badges, hats, ID cards, squad, and all other vehicle decals and business cards, office stationery, etc. So this is a situation where it's an unfunded mandate that's going to come down if the legislature doesn't act on voting on this. From what I understand, the way this was set up by the legislature and the governor, they appointed 13 members to a commission to redesign the seal and the flag. And none of those members were elected officials. They had a subcommittee of elected officials, but they did not have a vote. And so if this, what they did is went through all kinds of proposals on seals and flags, designs. They voted on it and did what they did. And if the legislature doesn't take it up this session, it's automatically changed. I feel that people who elected officials should have a say and a vote on how the design is and all that, the changes. And, you know, it's gonna cost the counties a lot of money to switch. This is just one department, so.
I totally agree, and I move to adopt this resolution and send it forward to the appropriate places.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion in the resolution? If not, could we do a roll call vote on it?
District 1,
Yes,
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes. All right, and we will send that to the governor and our legislative representatives too. Action item number 3, consider the option of not leasing county vehicles going forward. Carol.
So I don't know, I had sent a copy of the board minutes where the county board back in, I believe it was 2019, signed the agreement with Enterprise that we would be leasing vehicles. It's not a contract, so it doesn't mean that we're going to lease, you know, every single vehicle. There have been, we've been doing some purchases and deciding maybe that leasing isn't the way to go. But I just want the board to formally indicate so that I can tell Enterprise for certain that we are not going to be leasing vehicles anymore. It's not changing the agreement that we have for the current vehicles. We just recently, Highway Department just recently got one, so we will be leasing, paying the leases on the vehicles that we have now for, you know, until the 5 years is up. But I just think that we should do that to let Enterprise know. Because I think basically I said, no, we probably weren't going to, and then they got an email from the sheriff's office saying, oh, you know, show me leases on these vehicles. Well, then I think they didn't go through with them, you know, so it's like we're kind of giving a cloudy picture of what we're
Yeah,
doing, and I want the board just to
Yes.
say that it is our intention to purchase vehicles in the future.
Yeah, so as our leases come due,
Mhm.
current vehicles will continue as stated or
Right,
as leased.
in
and then
accordance with the agreement.
At one time, it was a good idea, but it appears to be with supply, demand and all that stuff.
well, at the time when we did that, it was a very good proposal at the time, and that's why we decided to do that, because I was involved in that.
Mhm.
And since COVID hit and the supply and all that and the price of used vehicles and everything's changed.
Mhm.
So
So,
it's not a good deal anymore. But not to say that anything wrong with Enterprise, I mean,
mhm,
they couldn't get cars either,
right,
so.
Three down at the county shop, where are they at? Three that we got rid of from Health and Human Services, they're on the market right now. I think. Min bid, right?
mhm.
I believe they put them on min bid. Auction them off
And
there.
I'm not real sure how long that is. It's a 2-week, 3-week thing, which we.
I think you can pick. I don't know how long we typically do.
We did talk. I'll talk about that. No, we can have can we make a motion today then?
Do we have any wording as to how wording of the letter or intent or what's your plan? or-
It would just be the intent that we do not plan to lease vehicles in the future, that we will be purchasing them outright.
You wanna make that motion, Bob?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we will continue with our current lease agreements until they are expired, and at that point in time, each vehicle that comes off the lease, we will replace it with a vehicle that we purchase ourselves.
And we won't enter any new lease agreements.
And henceforth not lease anymore between, After this date. I'll second that.
Motion's been made and second. Is there any further discussion?
Did you do any comparison like with Brian Sheriff on the state bid on the squad car versus leasing and equipping? Is there any advantages that way?
I believe he did.
Brian's
I'm pretty
good
sure he had
numbers.
sent you numbers.
Yeah.
On that
So
at one point.
Bob, you mentioned before that Sleepy Hollow would match it in bid or be close
Closely
to it.
that they thought they could get real close to the, if not match, it'd be very close to what the state bid. The biggest thing about it is, like in Brian's case, with the lease you pay 1/5 or 1/6 of the cost upfront, and then it's an annual cost on the lease. When we buy it, it's 100% upfront.
Right.
That's why we have to start with a program where we're putting money into a vehicle replacement fund. So we've got the money to buy these when those leases run out. But if we can meet the state bid,
Yeah, I don't know if,
that'd be the ticket.
it'd be something for Brian to look into if Sleepy Hollow would sell, I'm sure they sell squads.
They do.
They're usually Chrysler and they're over in Baroka. They can get them here too.
Sure. And they have squad vehicles that they can get.
We could do it locally as much as we can. That's what I'm for. All right, any other further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol. Number 4, consider accepting resignation of Joe Tessing from River Trail Extension Citizens Exploratory Committee, Bike Trail Committee, and thank him for his service. Consider appointing Jason Kraft to serve the River Trail Extension Citizens Exploratory Committee on behalf of Houston County. Allison.
Yeah, so this is this very long committee is the bike trail committee that we've been working on, extending the wagon wheel trail. Joe Tessing was serving on the committee, but he just has a scheduling conflict, so he's still willing to help us out, but he's not gonna be the Houston County rep anymore. And Jason Kraft, who lives in Houston County, is interested in serving. He's been coming to meetings, and so the EDA is recommending that we appoint him to the committee.
So we can combine this as accepting the resignation and accepting the appointing of a new person. Is there a motion for that?
Who's on the bike trip? From the board.
So our other, we have 2 one is Ben from Hoka.
From this board.
No,
No one.
We don't have
we're not involved. This is a city.
You're welcome to come to the meetings, but
Oh.
each, so we're in this with Hoka, La Crescent, and Houston. And the county is also a rep, and we each appoint 2 citizens to be on the committee.
For the county.
Where's Jason from? I know Houston County. Is he like Crescent resident, Hope resident?
Hoka,
He's part of
he
the,
lives in the Hoka area.
he's in the area where the bike trail is gonna be. I see no problem with this. So I'll make a motion to accept Joe Tessing's resignation with thanks for the service that he's provided to the River Trail Extension project. And to approve the appointing of Jason Kraft to serve on the River Trail Extension Citizens Exploratory Committee on behalf of Houston County.
Is there a motion? There's been a motion. Is there a second? Motion's been seconded. Any further discussion?
That was a mouthful, but
Yeah.
It's a really long name and. Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right. Number 5, consider reappointing Joe Tessing and Matt Schultz to the Economic EDA Board. 3-year term will expire 12/31/26. Allison.
So Joe and Matt are currently have been serving on the EDA board. Their term is up, but they can serve another term. And they are both willing to do so. So we would like to reappoint them.
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Who got to be chairman of that group this year? All done for the last 3 years.
Matt took it.
Matt again.
Matt took it again?
Yep.
Okay.
We thought about giving it to Joe because he wasn't there, but we.
Yeah.
thought that would be-
That'll learn enough to show.
How that usually works.
But they're both good guys to have on there. They got a lot of expertise in the banking business and they know what's going on. So, yep.
Joe does not have time for the bike trail. He still wants to stay on.
Yeah.
Not that he doesn't have time, he just has a scheduling conflict with when the bike trail meetings are. So he does not have a scheduling conflict for EDA most of the time. Just for clarification.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Number 6, consider approving updated commissioner committee assignment 2024. So, well, I was just gonna say. Last week, we did all the committee assignments. We got it officially broken down in here, who's on what.
Updated with that.
Last week or?
We didn't because we put the rest of these in the packet, just the list of all the committees that you are on. And so we wanted to have,
We didn't vote at the end of it all to approve it.
Oh, okay.
we only voted on the one.
Correct.
I'll move to approve the updated commissioner committee assignment for 2024.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second. Motion seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Number 1 on the discussion item. Discuss Spring Grove Township request. You guys want to come forward for that? I asked Eric to stay for this meeting too. Eric, the surveyor, he has kind of the history of this too, so if we need to have some input from his point of view on this, we could ask him as well.
Thank you.
State your names and where you're from and.
Michael Whiskey, Spring Grove Township, clerk treasurer.
Okay.
Gary Twido, Spring Grove Township
All right.
Board Member.
Yep.
We've been having a long legal battle with someone who's blocked the right of way.
Yep.
And I'd like to read the statute to you. In a question and answer thing from the township advisor.
Yep, Township Insider, yep.
Inside. Question, the adjacent landowner placed things in the right of way. What do we do? Answer, several Minnesota statutes make it a crime to obstruct rights of way. For example, Minnesota statute 169.2715 makes it a misdemeanor for someone to obstruct the right of way by erecting fences, signs, and other objects. Likewise, Minnesota statute 609.74, anyone who interferes with, obstructs, or renders dangerous for passage any public highway or right of way or waters used by the public is guilty of a misdemeanor. If you discover a landowner is placing objects in the right of way, the town board should first speak with the landowner, which we've done. The town board should inform them of the issue and ask that it be remedied. If that doesn't work, town board may remove the item and place it back on the landowner's property. We tried that with our 2 different locations and that didn't work. If the landowner continues to create issues, the town may contact the sheriff county to enforce the misdemeanor penalty for placing personal property in the right of way. We did that twice and it didn't help because the county attorney called it a township problem. So it wouldn't back the sheriff. So
I don't know how much, we've been talking to Greg. I don't know how much you guys know about it.
Well, we all got this packet last week.
when we call the sheriff's department, that's a county problem. And the county attorney should have taken over.
I looked through some stuff yesterday and kind of came up with kind of a timeline of all this stuff. And there's a whole lot happened in between that. And I've never been sued. I've never sued anybody. So I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
And
But-
this also started before I was on the board and I've been elected at least twice since then.
Yep, it's been
Just-
going on a long time. Yeah.
Well, it's me and Mike Patterson. He wants something. I don't know where he went, but he just wants something. That's where he is. So, July 5th, 2017 is when Ward was kind of first notified that Myra had put stuff on the road.
Mhm.
First, it was said and I think this happened the previous winter, I believe. He called it logs, but I think it was probably more firewood type stuff. I'm not sure. And then, I don't know, if Kyle Flatten got rid of that stuff. I'm not sure. But then they put a bunch of old boards on that roadway. And we're only talking about length of a football field, and it's really a field road, but it is a township.
Mhm.
Anyway, they put these boards on there and burnt that pile of boards. So Kyle Flatten was out there picking up nails. He didn't think too much about it. It was, So anyway, and then I think that's when the fence showed up, was shortly after that. And this is kind of 10 years after they bought that place. So I think they blamed the statute, not statute. What do they call that? Eminent
Domain.
adverse possession, yeah,
So they fenced off the road.
Yes.
yes. So anyway, July 5th, 2017 is when it kind of first came to the town board. So, and then we talked about it, Mike Patterson then talked to the sheriff. And the sheriff sent Myra 2 separate letters, and I don't have copies of them, our attorney in Rochester. 2 separate letters saying to get his stuff off. And then I think it was shortly after that, I remember talking to the county attorney upstairs in the building.
Mhm.
And he said something like, well, yeah, maybe he broke the law, but he's got a point, you can break the law, but if that's not justice, I got a copy of it here.
I read it in the packet.
That's not justice. Well, he's not the judge, he's not the jury, but he was then. So then,
So basically, he refused to pursue trespassing.
yes. And he said, well, that's a township matter. Well, it is, but if the county sheriff sends you a letter, 2 letters, tells you to get your stuff off there, and you ignore that, doesn't that then become a county matter? I would think so. And who's the Spring Grove Township, like any township in the county? The Houston County Sheriff is our law enforcement.
We don't elect the township sheriff or we don't
Right,
elect
no,
the
yeah, yeah.
township attorney.
So anyway, now, and I have heard that, I just heard, I don't know it. But
I believe that the sheriff would have gone after it. I heard him say that.
Yeah, pretty good call, Pete.
You want to come forward so everybody can hear you?
And see it on tape.
Anthony Richmond, I'm surveyor now and in 2017, this beautiful garden of issues was starting to blossom. Mark Englet called me after those letters were sent and after the conversation was had with the county attorney. I guess frustrated that the situation was reaching an end point from the county's involvement. He was confused why I would make. I also wrote a letter, I believe it was to the county, to the sheriff's office, stating that this is a public roadway under, and I kind of cited the legal principles that I thought were applicable at that time.
Township right.
This is a township right away, yep. And the fence across it is impeding travel on that township right away. And I think I'm kind of fuzzy with how the letters went. I think I wrote one to the sheriff's office with that information. And then the sheriff wrote ones to Brian, Mr. Myra, telling him to get the stuff off.
Well, yes, but it was the deputy.
Travis Lapham, I think,
Travis
was also involved.
Yeah.
I think Mark was confused or frustrated with me why I would make a claim that it's a township road if it couldn't be prosecuted when it was barricaded. And I explained that I don't have a court to help me with my determinations. I have
You just
education and
stated
experience,
your opinion.
my professional opinion.
Yep.
Exactly. And that was that.
Yep.
I understand. I think I talked in a big whole bunch of circles, but was that relevant enough or coherent enough for you guys? We need to talk more.
Yep.
So
So go ahead.
So then, we, Myra would come to our meetings. We, back and forth and for about 2 years, we tried.
Mhm.
For about 2 years, and then we started dealing with Dunlap and Seaver. That's a law firm in Rochester. Ken Schuler was the attorney.
So you sought counsel.
Yes, and so then in December of 2019, like 2.5 years later, he filed a complaint with the courts, and I don't know what that is. Of course, then the virus came into play. But then the trial was held in Winona, and I had to testify. That was May 31st and June 1st of 2022. And then it took till October 6th of that same year. It wasn't a jury, it was a judge.
Right.
Ruled in our favor that, and I've got that stuff if you want to see it. That yeah, it was a township road, he was blocking the road. And then, I'm not sure what the date was, but Myra then thought he needed a retrial. And that was denied on December 2nd, 2022.
He tried to appeal.
No, he wanted a retrial. And then on December, and so then this past fall, the fall of 23, then he appealed. And on December 26, 2023, I have a copy of the
That's the part I
ruling
read
that
that he appealed and then.
his appeal was denied, or
He
that
lost
judge-
his appeal.
Yeah,
He lost his appeal.
That, and I don't know if that's one judge, panel of judges, but here's a letter that Ken Schuler, our attorney, sent to our board. That I think says quite a bit, if you want to Just quickly.
You probably got that in your.
Is that the one that
Well, this is,
enclosed,
Uh,
enclosed is a copy of December 2017?
No,
Ours is a little different.
Okay,
this is
Go ahead, read
dated December 28th, 2020.
you want to read it?
okay, Spring Grove Town Board. In reference to Spring Grove Township versus Brian Myra. Dear members of the board. Following the decision of the Court of Appeals, I made two phone calls regarding this matter. Probably three, because he called me and I told him to call Greg and I told him. Because we had talked to Greg or Mike Patterson. The first call was to Greg Myrie. I told Greg Myrie about the history of the Myra matter and explained that the Houston County Attorney declined to prosecute this matter back in 2017. I told him the township had incurred about $75,000. And it's more. What we have paid this attorney to this point, and we're not done yet. $73,545.13. And that doesn't count. We have to pay the county for
I did-
survey.
I did perform like a genuine survey on property.
And then the extra meetings and stuff that we go to, it's, we're not talking about tens, maybe a few thousand. But anyway. 75,000 at this point in legal expenses would like the county to reimburse it. The basis for seeking reimbursement is that this should have been a criminal matter that was prosecuted by the county. Mr. Myrie requested.
Myra.
No, Myrie, Mr. Myrie
Oh, great.
Greg. Requested I send him the correspondence from Houston County Attorney relating to that denial. You will see in the enclosed materials the letter we received from Sam Youngs, Houston County Attorney. Mr. Myrie told me he would bring it up with county commissioners at a regular meeting. I then spoke with Sam Youngs regarding this letter. I sent him an email attaching various rulings on this case. A copy of this email and attached rulings is enclosed. Mr. Yount told me he would consult with the Houston County Sheriff. And here's kind of what gets me. It is possible Mr. Myra will be charged with a misdemeanor for failing to clear the path as ordered by Judge Leahy. More to come on that point.
When was that dated?
December 28th, 2023.
So just a
couple weeks.
I'd like to also say that 3 of the neighbors who utilize that road have basically contacted us at some point wanting to use that road. Bruce Burschgard has a permanent easement across the Freed property to come up to the Minnesota state line. He didn't need any easement beyond that because it was township road right away. Kyle Flotten, to access his property the way he always has, was off of this road right away. And Bill and Karen Freed basically contacted us as well. In Iowa, the roads are county and state, and they don't have township roads. If 3 neighbors that wanted to use that road called you, if this were, put the shoe on the other foot, if this was a county road and you got calls from the neighbors wanting to use that road, we wouldn't favor one neighbor over another, such as Mr. Brian Myra, to block their access to that road. And you guys would contact the county attorney more than likely if he's blocking the road. Would you allow the county attorney to not prosecute Brian Myra?
Well, there lies the rub. the county attorney is an elected official.
Yes,
We don't have any authority over him as far as what he prosecutes.
and he also has no competition, so it's not a highly sought after job, is what I get. From,
I got a couple of questions. Eric, is this dedicated as a minimum maintenance road without any type of documentation? Well, so that's a term that years ago, some type of.
That's a term that's kind of used outside of my realm of expertise. That's a better question for township maintenance.
Steve Johnson was our maintenance man before I was on the board. Steve Johnson is one of my best friends. He was in my wedding. Anyway, he maintained that road. And I,
Has been maintained up until when, that they be,
until it got
roughly,
locked,
I mean.
probably.
To maintain all along,
Yeah,
until the fence went up.
yeah,
okay, well then.
pretty-
It's a road.
yeah.
I mean,
It's a legal road.
minimum maintenance
It
road
is
is
a-
kind of,
It doesn't have a sign on it that says minimum maintenance road.
I know there are signs out there on minimum maintenance road, but
Yeah.
in my experience being on the township board for 22 years. That don't mean a lot, because as soon as somebody. You know, usually it's on a road that nobody lives on, but as soon as someone lives there or wants to use it, you have to maintain it and keep it up. And that's what you guys were doing,
That's what I would, no, it wasn't designated minimum.
right? It wasn't even signed that way.
No,
No,
and the road actually was in really good shape for a gravel road up to Brian's and maybe through his too, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Shirley Flatten owns the property underlying the road.
you see, that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah,
Of course it is.
that's not our township problem.
Well, but-
Our problem is to keep the road right away open. But yet, one of the first meetings I attended, both Bruce Bursgard and Kyle Flotten attended. They didn't want to discuss the business in front of me because they thought I was there for dropping gopher feed off. No, Gary's on the board. So I found out that the Flotten property, Kyle had done a survey. The Flotten property actually is about 6 feet away from Brian's front door.
Mhm.
And,
Bruce's.
or,
Bruce is the Iowa.
yeah,
Actually, that's Karen Freed's property. Bruce
oh,
Renson runs that.
yeah, but I mean, the Flotten property was like 6 feet off of Brian's door and north
See,
is the way I looked at the survey line.
see, say that's not part of this issue, isn't right, because it is. If Brian's they changed the legal description. I call it
Somewhere in
legal-
the past, that could have been before Brian's time.
No, it was,
I don't
it
know.
was.
I don't-
Brian's dad, Keith, bought this property from Mark. And it was totally, it's 1 acre more or less, totally on the south side of the road. Typically, you own half the road, not in this case, it was all on the south, out of the right of way. Now he's claiming, so he changed the legal description between the time that Mark Marr sold it to Keith Myra sold it to his son, Brian. And somewhere along that line, the legal description was changed. So now they're claiming that they own this whole, and it still isn't a big area, but this whole thing.
North of the township road.
So
Right
it
away.
was sent
And
to me
it's-
recently and something I had never thought of, and that is not our. But they went to the courthouse and filed that this faulty legal description. Now, isn't that a crime? It should be. I don't know if it is or not. But they did it. So now, when this is all settled, if it ever is. Plottens are gonna have to go see a lawyer and get this legal description straight.
And that's between those two.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's not us, but
Yeah.
that's another part of it. So
and Mike has often said at the public, at our township meeting, what right do we have to give away flattened land?
Which is basically what we would have done.
If
We
we-
would have given this
Yes.
up. Myra would have claimed that
Yeah.
property, which is actually Flatten's property. So we couldn't have done that.
So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misinterpreting your request. Is that because of the fact that our county attorney failed to enforce
A statute.
trespass, a statute law. You guys had to take him to civil court, right?
Mhm.
You won your case, but during doing that, you've accumulated attorney fees. So now you would like us to share in the cost of those?
Well, that was brought up maybe last summer. You know, we're at your mercy. for that. But here's the other. One. You can tell the sheriff to go after this, but the sheriff and I believe, and then you go on, the sheriff wanted to act on this, but it was the county attorney that said, no, we're not. If you do anything, I'm not backing you up.
So where did Dennis Sweatford live? Because Brian grew up down there.
Yeah, and Brian used that
He used
chunk
that
of road when he
road
was
when he was
growing up, yeah.
Our current sheriff probably rode his motorcycle
Oh.
like that.
Dennis lived down there for quite a few years.
Yes,
At the Breed
But-
property,
Yeah.
which is the next house to the east. of
yeah,
Brian.
the free.
So to me, here's what, you know. Like I said, we've been trying to keep our noses clean this whole time, you know, going on 7 years. Trying to be nice, trying to keep ourselves out of trouble.
Trying to work it out.
Yeah. Once we hired lawyers, we went to court. Retrial, they tried to appeal it. We won our case, so where are we at?
So now our county attorney said in that recent letter that it's possible he could,
So that's the thing. You know, we're at your mercy for money.
Is it too little, too late? I guess he's indicating now that possibly could be charged.
Possibly. So if you tell him, you gotta act, are we gonna get a decent, honest effort at this? That's the thing.
We have high praise for the sheriff's department. They would have acted on
Mhm.
this.
And yet, and yes, I do believe that if the county attorney mishandled this from the beginning. A night or two in jail right off the bat. they were done.
Now his blinders are so focused that he has no respect for us or even the right of way. Bruce Burschgard,
you're referring to Myra.
yes, Bruce Burschgard informed me this spring that Brian was adding on to his barn. Now, he might have added on, a little piece of that barn was already in the right of way.
In addition, that he constructed in 2010,
And
encroached into the right of
anyway,
way.
he's built onto that barn this spring, and Bruce asked if I wanted to go see it, because I was at Bruce's picking up a fertilizer spreader. I informed Bruce that I've been advised not to go near.
That too.
So I don't know if he added on into the right of way, but he's showing disrespect for the court system. He
Well,
thinks he's.
something needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because he's lost citizenship. And so as the county needs to act in carrying out the wishes of the court, that you guys are in the right. I don't know if we as a board can encourage our county attorney to pursue this matter. It is to the full extent of the law.
Well, that's, you know, so.
From what I've seen of our expenses, I have
Right, right. And your guys are at your wit's end here because you've done what you can do. It's up to the law enforcement of the county and the county attorney to pursue this to make sure the decision of the court is followed.
I find it a little hard to believe, but I think this is a dangerous situation.
he came to my place, Brian did, with a paper that says, here is a solution, and basically it's a $500 copy to a contractor said he could build a road for $500. Based on what into the Freed property, which still would do nothing for the Flotten property. And one contractor said 500, let's just bulldozer work it. And based on what I see in my knowledge of the trees, 500 wouldn't unload the Caterpillar there. And that wouldn't include the rock to base it and then gravel to get on there. And he,
At our last meeting.
But-
Said that how he has fenced. He
farther down,
plug panels, I call it.
yeah.
There, farther, because he's got a few posts. He's come farther down the hill. So he's still kind of defying. all this. And recently, like I said, I didn't hear this myself, but somebody said that one time when one of the deputies was there, he had to call for backup.
And I dare say that's why Sam pulled him off. Went back.
I don't feel comfortable accessing that site alone. At this point in time. I was working right in front of Kyle's house yesterday afternoon. And I'm a curious guy and I would have loved to drive back there and see if he tipped down his fence. I'm not going back at all. I think that the blinders were put on well before this year,
Yes, I agree.
well before this year. I was contacted yesterday about 3 or 4 o'clock by Steve Garrett at the sheriff's office, and he wants to ride out there. And he wants me to assist him or accompany him. Possibly next week to see if anything has changed.
It's got, right.
I don't find that hard to believe.
When he handed me this paper, I stated to him, you're on property that you don't own, meaning township road right away, but it could also mean Flotten property. But the last thing Brian said to me was, just leave me alone. And you could hear the stress and strain in his voice. It's not a good situation.
Eric, you've documented the survey and it's where it is, and you can see where the fence is, the relationship to the edge of the survey. Pretty much. Without.
Oh, the fence is shown on my survey document. I prepared a survey, signed it, executed it, provided it to the township for a meeting
2018.
in spring of 2018. And with the survey work that I do, I like to set a pipe or rebar and a cap at the different angle points of the survey in the ground so that it can be viewed by the public. I was intending to do that 30 days after the signing of that survey, which is a little unusual, but I was trying to make a meeting. After that meeting, I received contact from Dick Nethercutt, who was then Brian's attorney, to not access that property, to set those monuments. As a land surveyor in the state of Minnesota, I have the right to access property to view survey evidence. I don't necessarily have the ability to place survey evidence. Now, I could go on township right away. I could go on Kyle Flatten's property with his permission. And I can work up to that line. But if I suppose I step over that line and trying to access it, I'd be on Brian Meyer's property. Samion instructed me to just stay out of the situation. I never did set those monuments in the ground. I do know where the fence is. I know where these his different wood sheds and greenery, and I know where that is relative to the property line. In such a way that I could tell Steve Garrett that it's moved, it's not. We're not talking about ascertaining 4 inches. We're talking about 40 feet. You know, need GPS equipment to.
It's not real clear, but where they graded the road up, it's visible through there. And
Although that could change in a hurry of 1 year's time, you put a crop on there, you can make it not visible.
it was
It was visible when you guys went to visit before I came to board.
Basically, it's a few, there's.
There's grass across the whole right of way now. Or pasture or whatever, but low under the surface of black dirt is a layer of gravel.
I think, I think he put some thin layer of soil on there, planting grass, because we were out there one. I don't know if you were.
Along the fence, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We were on the Iowa side, because he fenced on the Minnesota side and the Iowa side. It's the Iowa line right there. And we were standing basically in Iowa. He's got a few goats. Goats like cattle follow the fence all the way around. They just follow.
Mhm.
And they wore that grass and that little bit of soil off. And I said to him, I said, "What's that gravel doing there?" Oh, he said, "I put that." That was my.
So I'm curious, in the Iowa side, is there a road there too?
That's a minimum maintenance road, but
From the Iowa side,
yes.
but there is a road there, so that is a continued,
None of, well, actually, I think
okay,
some of the trees are maybe like yay big now.
I'm not licensed in the state of Minnesota as a
yeah,
land
you can't
surveyor.
talk about that.
I can't
was
make
just
determination, but
Yeah.
as far as I understand, I don't think that the county is maintaining, the Winnebago County is maintaining a road going south from that dead end.
Okay,
And to
However-
my knowledge, it's never been vacated.
Well, I don't think that was ever a public road. I think that was.
Oh, it definitely was.
Oh, it was.
It definitely,
Yeah, there used to be a
it used to go
culvert,
west.
yes.
West,
Two-
yeah, but
two
Right,
county
Bruce's
culverts.
that go straight south, yeah, his driveway.
yeah.
Yeah.
because
What
That
I
was the
understand
driveway
is a
shared
labor.
Yeah.
alongside this. Burschards and Burschard, owner Burschard, Bruce's dad, and then Gilman and my, Root. They each had a farm there. Now they access that off of Blacktop.
I think
So it
straight
used-
east,
it
where it
used to
used to
go-
go north
it used to
to
go from
connect
there,
with
and then-
our township road.
And then the township road, which really I think was Iowa. From where ours ended, went west over to County 4 on the Iowa line.
And it would meander into Iowa and then back into Minnesota, back into Iowa.
That's not the old
Near the state line.
guys my age talked about how they used to ride their motorcycles through there, but I would. But
It closed sometime in the early 50s.
Yeah.
Late 40s.
When a bridge culvert washed.
The first time you called the police up, did he have the road blocked then?
Yes.
Did you have pictures of that?
our lawyer does it.
is it
Steve,
still,
I
is it
think
still fenced
Steve-
off?
Yes,
It is?
yes.
Current violation.
Well,
Yeah.
It's been in violation.
Maybe he should have been guilty right there when you had called the cops and he's got the road blocked.
It would have been so much less
We'd have
stressful,
been done with it.
stressful on everybody. Justice delayed is really not good.
This all happened, like I said, in late summer, fall of 2017. It's when
I got a letter here from December 15th, 2017, from the county attorney's office.
Yeah.
Going through all his case law, reasons for not pursuing it. But in the end, in the final one here, he says if the court determines, and this is civil court, the roadway was not abandoned, my office would then reconsider criminal charges. So it's basically what he just said here a couple weeks ago to you.
Yeah, but he decided all of this in a matter of. I mean, it's taken us 6.5 years.
Yeah.
And I
It could have been
realize
done
it's-
so much quicker
realize
with
it's
so
different,
much
but-
less mental strain on everyone.
he put
Right.
very little effort in figuring out whether that was.
Well, I agree. It should have been handled back in 2017.
I have a vote of no confidence in the county attorney from this procedure.
I guess, is there? Yeah, it's like I said, how much effort, are we gonna get a decent effort out of this? I don't think so. Can you hire
We
some
should be
other?
real careful.
Yes, for sure.
What we say about somebody and how we.
Yeah.
How we characterize somebody that's not here.
Yeah, I really
let's-
I had talked to Allison and I forgot to mention that this should have been. We should have requested a closed session.
It doesn't qualify. for a closed session.
Yeah, that's what I
But
understand.
can you hire somebody else to?
Yeah. Higher, because
Sounds
the county attorney is
I
already,
think we need to just look into this matter from, have a conversation with the county attorney.
I did get the call from Steve yesterday, so some balls are rolling.
It sounds like
In
something
that
started to
building.
happen. Yep.
I don't know what. It was a brief conversation.
Commissioners, can I interject quick?
Brian,
Brian,
We did receive a complaint from the township's attorney just recently. We are investigating their complaint about the township road still being blocked. And we have been talking with the county attorney, so he's aware of everything. We'll have our reports done and everything sent to the county attorney within a week. And then most likely, if nothing's resolved, he will be issuing a summons.
okay,
So we are still dealing with it, and Sam is agreeable to pursue this also, so.
Because at this point, it's not just that he's blocking the road, he's defining a court order.
a civil, yeah, especially when they just went through civil court.
Court order, correct?
Well, thanks, Brian, for letting us know that.
Going forward.
We'll just have to see how this plays out.
Well, it's winter now, I think.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be all in pay across there. Well, maybe.
Mhm.
Not anymore,
Well,
not after today.
All right.
we'll go forward.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention and. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
What would you have, Brian?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we'll move on to board updates. I don't have a whole lot. To share what we had land use committee, the meeting this morning, basically had just general discussion of what's been going on for the past month and. Nothing to bring up. Too important, so.
How's that new comprehensive plan come?
So what?
How's that new plan come? Comprehensive new plan. How's that coming?
Comprehensive.
Land new plan that we're redesigning?
We did that already.
It's all done and how about changes? Is any changes made? Or-
Are you talking about land or ordinance? Because
Because of the new plan, did we change any ordinance?
No, nothing's,
Done there.
that planning commission would. Do that as far as changing any ordinances. When they form a new. The new board here this year, that's possibly something that they'll work on. Is there, we as a board members can bring suggestions to. Any ordinance changes we would like to see. So if anybody has any input on or suggestions on what they would like to see changed or not. They could do that.
do we talk to the board about that or this board or the plan?
We could discuss it as a board. Then bring it forward to the zoning office, who would bring it towards. Talk to the planning commission when they have a discussion on. Any possible ordinance changes.
So as an example.
Yep.
From my perspective, but one per quarter. And we've talked about this in the past. I understand on the certified land, it's the 1, 2, and 3 categories. I like that. Is there a reason that we couldn't or shouldn't change the 1 per quarter to say 1 per 20 acres in non-ag property?
That would-
Woods, pasture, swamp. But just a question,
Then you would be changing it to 2 per quarter.
only in non-ag. Is that impossible to do because of categorization? It's a piecemeal type thing.
Yeah, that'd be doing spot zoning. Certain areas of the county you can do 2 per quarter, and certain areas you can't.
Good point.
I'm just asking,
I know that's something that you would wanna have a discussion on with the planning commission. And us as a board.
Yeah.
Right now. You know, we're talking about class 1, 2, or 3. So you can't build on. But if that class 1, 2, and 3 is in a wooded section that's never been farmed. Any situation like that, or that has not been farmed for 10 years, you are allowed to build on. So.
As long as that's 1 per quarter.
Right.
So if an old retired person wanted to sell off 5 acres, somebody could build a house to have a little extra money. We could do it if we had 2 per quarter.
well, if there's nothing on the quarter, he could do it anyway.
Yeah, there's nothing on the quarter.
Right, there's nothing on the quarter you can do.
If there is something on the quarter and we change it to non 1, 2, or 3 properties. Which goes back to what you're talking about. If you do it, if it's that 20 acres, doesn't the house.
In my opinion, when we had this discussion during the. When we did the comprehensive land use plan. It was in our discussions, it was our intent to keep things at 1 per 40. Because of density. And there's still a lot of places that are buildable out here in the country for people to build a house. They don't necessarily need a 40. They could get a CUP to build on less than 40 acres if there is not a house on that quarter. But you know, there are a lot of places around the county that there are 2, maybe even 3 on a quarter already. Because of those were built before zoning came into effect. And that's right next door to me. I got 3 40s and I got 2 places. You know, I call it the little village of Looney Valley, but you know, my wife tells me to get over it. But I think that's what our goal was, to try to control the density and keep it rural and keep it country and.
We're not gonna pay all of that.
Well, but if we keep letting more housing and houses being built in the country, that's gonna create more services and demands too. So there's 2 ways of looking at that. And as far as the tax bill, that's where it's our job to try to live within our means and try to keep it as low as we can. But I suggest that anybody has anything that they want us to look at, ordinances changes in the future, write it down and bring it up as a suggestion, and we can discuss it and bring it to the planning commission for consideration. And the planning commission can do that as well.
That was just one thing that.
Yep.
I wanted to talk about.
Allison, have something here?
Well, I was on the project management team, and just from the perspective of those of us that worked on the comprehensive land use plan, we did ask about this in the survey, and there wasn't an overwhelming majority that wanted the rule changed. And the comp plan is supposed to be based on, you know, feedback from the citizens. And the thing that we did hear overwhelmingly is that people love our wide open spaces. And so that was another thing that was taken into consideration when the comp plan was written the way it was. If we would have gotten an overwhelming majority of feedback that people did want that changed, that probably would have come through that in the comp plan. That is not what our result was. So just some feedback as to why the comp plan was written the way it was, that's why.
Did the comprehensive plan also include, was it just residential, or did that extend to commercial use as well?
there is no commercial use per se in the rural areas.
I mean, they're talking about a specific rule that is guided by the comp plan, but there are zoning rules for what you can do commercial wise.
Right.
Yeah, the reason I asked is I went through a lot of the zonings. My wife wants a rural birthing center. We have 30 acres and
A what?
a birthing center, like a, what is it called? The non-hospital birthing, you know.
Yeah.
She's all about the organic stuff and all that. So I read into the zoning and this must have been before you. It was this recent within the last couple of years, because the last I checked on this was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, we recently adopted a new comprehensive land use
Okay.
plan,
Last
but the land use plan just guide our ordinances.
Okay,
Ordinances have not been changed.
okay,
Right, ordinance are still at what they were when you checked in.
okay.
But that was a good point, Allison, what you brought up about the survey and why we did what we did, so. And just to further note too, that applications for the planning commissions have just expired here on Friday, I believe, Thursday or Friday. We've had 3 applicants for 2 positions that are available, so. What's that?
They'd have a third person be an alternate.
As far as the alternate thing. There used to be an alternate on the Board of Adjustment. The planning commission hasn't had one yet, so. As that we could tell, we looked into this, that never has happened, so we have to figure out how we would make that. Incorporate that into play as far as having an alternate, so.
When I was on the Board of Adjustment, we had an alternate.
I know, there's precedent for that in the Board of Adjustment, but not the planning commission. Right, so we'd have to do some research more if that's even allowed in the planning commission or whatever, so.
On the Board of Adjustment, 5 people. Sick. Then the next set of alternate.
Well, it used to be 3 people on the Board of Adjustment, and then they increased it to 5, so you'll still have a quorum.
Even if you only have 3 people.
Even if you had, right, even if you had 2 people sick, you'd still have a quorum to do it with 3. So. HR is gonna bring those names forward to us via email, I believe, for us to score, and look at the applications and score and we'll bring that, probably won't be coming until the 4th Tuesday of the month to act on it. That's all I got. Greg, you got anything to bring forward?
Going pretty good there. Something. About all that's going on there, is quite honest.
Did we advertise them?
So, you know. Right?
Sent out the information to go into the papers. Should be in, I don't know if we'll make it this week's paper, but it's going out.
Yeah, I did have a phone call from camper who camps on the south side, a little upset on the change of going to the online reservation system. And the fact that they need to designate each month they want to stay there because it's an Army Corps ordinance, an ordinance that we have to follow, that south sides are limited camping. And so for this year, we're gonna let them do 30 days at a time for them to sign up for. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the next year is going to change. That it'll be only 30 days, right? And then they will have to move.
That is what our agreement with the US Army Corps of Engineers.
That's what our agreement says with US Army Corps.
So we're gonna adhere to what is in the lease between us and the Corps, so
Right.
it's just that. It hasn't been a big priority, but we got it do it right.
I explained that to the individual yesterday, and this is the reason why we're doing this, and that we're trying to follow the ordinances and the rules that are dictated to us by the Army Corps. I explained to him that the county does not make any money off the Wildcat campground. It all goes to management, maintenance, and upkeep of the campground. Go ahead, Bob.
With that online one. So if you have a group or organization that rents a weekend every year on the same month or weekend, will they just have to try and luck of the draw to get their 7-8 sites on first of the year, or will they be able to do that on a standing yearly, like they've done in the paper? So it's just kind of the way the other managers did it. Off the books, or
Yeah, are we gonna uphold this, whatever they did for next year?
you get Snowmobile Club that's every year in August. Gets 7 or 9 sites. In the past, they've just renewed it on the weekend that they were there, but that'll be
See, and this is the,
something that'll change for
this
a
is
group
the-
like that.
this is gonna be the change that's happening.
But then what he said, you can do it when you leave that weekend, but that's not a 4-week.
Right.
Yeah.
And since,
Privately owned.
yeah, and since I got that phone call, I did some calling around and asking around. They were upset about the increase of the fee too. By $100. But from my calling around and checking out, we're still cheap, reasonable. It's $20 a day. I've been told that's cheap. I've talked to campers, which is pretty cheap. And the other public campgrounds that are state, public parks, whatever. A lot of them are only 15 days. You can only be there for 15 days, then you have to pick up and move. You could move to another site, but you have to move. That's the rule to make it so it's available to anyone in the public who wants to camp.
And that's the whole purpose. It's got to be fair to the public.
Yeah,
And this isn't private.
this isn't a private campground. That's what I said, so.
You know, before. When it started out, there was only, what, 13 seasonal sites?
And they have allowed us to increase, and, you know, the 35 on the north end probably is kind of pushing it for what they normally have or normally allow. What's happened is that the south end has become, and there's the lottery. You have to go through the lottery every so many years on those sites.
On the
You know,
seasonal sites,
on the seasonal sites. Well, we have the south end where they basically are seasonal campers who have not had to do any of that. And the court, those aren't seasonal sites, they're daily sites.
right.
So
And of course, we gotta have something for the sites too.
that's what it says in our agreement, is that we have 51 daily sites. We have 35 seasonal and 51 daily sites.
You can't renew or reserve a daily site or weekend site.
We are
First of the
allowing
year.
them to do monthly this year. They'll have to
I
be,
guess I meant like a group that comes the second weekend of August every year. And they will
they
like to have,
can go on, everyone wanted online reservations also. There was the big push to have online reservations.
So in that situation, Bob, you could get online and reserve that spot.
they could, but with all of a sudden, one family that gets one in the middle of the line that they're at, it's gonna, possibly cause a little conflict for complaints to the campground manager.
They do it 2, 3, 4, 5 sites.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this guy gets booked in and he's a complete stranger and he's right in the middle of your pack.
But the thing is,
It's not your spot. That's what we have like ownership rights assumed on, these certain sites, and that is definitely against what the core,
Yeah,
their
I would think-
intention
I
of
would
our
think
part.
Their intention would be to look at the group that comes in too, because it would be less headache for the camp manager. Anyone
Well,
that's
that's-
camp
maybe
knows
here-
knows that.
Yeah.
I think that's a management call there.
I would think so, but
Leave it up to the man, where we go.
Well-
To deal with the headaches.
We've been leaving it up to the management. That's where.
And that's where we're having the issues.
That's where we're at now with the
Mm.
issues. We're not following the core's.
Yeah,
rules
and it's, you know, it's been a lot of years. I mean,
I
you
know,
know, Jake
16.
had a lot of years and we probably didn't pay as much attention as what we should have. And I know there have also been comparisons to, you know, other parks like, you know, La Crosse County has a park. They own their land. We do not own their land. We are our land. We are at the mercy of the Corps.
We're
You know, I
subject
can't
to
say they'd
lease
ever shut the park down, but you know, either one of us can end that contract, that rental or that lease with 1 year's notice.
We gotta be careful.
Mhm.
Don't lose it.
Well, the thing is. Back in Jake's day. He took in all the reservations. He knew that the snowmobile club was coming. He said, well. I'll rent these out all here and here, but I'm saving this for the snowmobile club. One, you weren't supposed to do it that way, but
Mhm.
with the manager, that was fine.
Right.
With the online. You can go online, you can look at the park, you can look at the stalls, and you can apply for that particular space. If
Mhm.
nobody else got it, it's yours. Right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So if the snowmobile club goes on early
I know
enough,
how it works, so.
and then go, but you know, oh, there's somebody in this spot, let's move 3 stalls.
And there, you
There's
know,
nothing
could
we can
possibly
do.
be some agreement if that happens, but I believe that's something that we need to stay out of. We have this online reservation system. You know, Beaver Park is a state agency. You don't really get to make a lot of choices. That's what's available. and-
Campers have told me, my in-laws can't.
Mhm.
They want to reserve a spot in a state park. They gotta stay up all night or get up early in the morning, get online, and you better have good Wi-Fi. And you better be there with your ready to hit the button. Sometimes you get lucky to get it, and sometimes you don't get it.
Right.
Is that,
We've tried getting cabins down at Beaver Park.
Big part.
Or, you know, they have one cabin that you can rent and never is it available.
Never been able to get it.
Never have been able to get it.
but is that? Using your example where you gotta be up late at night, is that for the entire year or is that every month?
That's for a year, for the yearly ones. I don't know about in what, but
Right.
you only can do it for a month at a time.
Right.
Right.
We're not even supposed to do it for a month down there, right? I mean, we allow it, but technically it's.
Well, no,
Right.
it's a month. We can do a month. But month and that's it. It's what's supposed to
Right.
be.
I mean, if we are going by our ordinance, not by the Corps lease agreement. Well, no, okay, yeah, the Corps lease agreement says that you can camp for 30 days and then you have to move.
Right.
You can camp in the same spot for 30 days out of 60 days.
Right.
Is what it says, so,
And the new deal would be, if you wanted a spot for a month, you could have that spot. And if you wanted another spot, you'd have to move to a different spot. You can't have the same month, same. spot.
right now, we're allowing them to do
Yeah.
the same
For this
spot.
year,
Yeah,
for the next
this
year,
month.
it'll be, you gotta move.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whether it's just
Excellent.
over to the next lot or wherever.
Mhm.
Well, you and your neighbors or buddies, yours doesn't mind and I won't mind.
Whatever.
Uh-huh.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's,
So-
And it's gonna.
You know, we're a
it's gonna be
government agency,
controversial.
we-
We might have a room full here, who knows,
something
but it's gonna be
Mhm.
controversial.
Shouldn't be.
But we're,
This is the way it is.
we're bound to it unless we change.
unless the
And
Corps
I
is in
talked to
agreement.
Brian about this. Can we go to the court and say we wanna change this? They tried to do it before, and it never worked.
Mhm. You know, I think it's not a good thing to be a government agency and not be doing it as we're supposed to be.
I'm starting to like.
Yeah,
And I agree with
we should be following the rules.
Anyway,
Very good.
Thank you. Anything more, Greg?
no,
Bob?
The only thing that I was gonna bring up We got our work session coming up, something to think about, maybe talk about there. Is with the cannabis stuff and the legalizing and the unknown of how many dispensaries that we will or will not be allotted. I've had some thought and talked to a couple other people, and actually had someone bring it up to me, is you take some of the states that have their own countywide or citywide local tax.
Can't do it.
Can't do it?
Nope. The state set it up that the local authority has no taxing authority. It's all taxed by the state.
So you can have like a hotel tax?
Nope. Only fee we can collect is if for a permit fee, registration fee. That's the only fee that we're allowed to collect.
So we could have a registration.
One time and.
One time, yep.
So you couldn't have like a 0.5%
Nope.
hotel type tax.
Nope. They tried to get that through. AMC tried to get something like that through, and it wasn't allowed by the legislature.
Oh, we're gonna get any out of that 10%?
No, no.
We're not gonna.
Well, that 10% could get some of it for public health, for educational programming, for.
That's where I was hoping that something with that, with a hotel type tax and marijuana tax, that we would be able to. Because we're gonna incur some more expense that.
Mhm.
Because everybody's gonna come down the doorstep, every overdose is gonna be at our doorstep, and they have places for these people already.
The sheriff's
So why do
office-
we wanna open another door up for them and make them more expensive to our taxpayers? I don't like that idea.
Your sheriff's office and everyone will still be incurring the expense.
Well, I mean,
Idea brought forward, but I guess
it's not
weight
allowed.
points.
It's not allowed. And then as far as enforcement, it's been stated that, well, who's gonna enforce all this? They think that there's gonna be somebody in the state that's gonna enforce it all. I dare say it's gonna be our local law enforcement enforcing all the state rules.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a free fall.
I'm good otherwise.
Mr. Burns,
We had our community services meeting this morning with Veteran Service Office and Health and Human Services. The Veteran Service Office is busy as they've ever been, or busier since once Christmas got by. He said the phone is ringing steady with people looking for assistance and looking for information and whatnot. So he said it's unusual because usually it's a quiet time of year. Now it's the busiest time of year. So there's a lot of things going on there. And he talked about the Preston Nursing Home now has 2 people living in there. So it's a soft opening. They're getting used to how that's working. He's got some spring training coming up for the veteran service officers. One of the things he talked about is talking to our local legislators. What he called it was an anti-shark legislation, meaning that people can go to veterans who have not been collecting their benefits, but then they're able to collect benefits, but haven't been collecting, so they can go back and get retroactive benefit claims. And these people come in and say, well, we'll represent you, and then we'll get a percentage of whatever they get you in reverse arrear benefits. 40, 50, 60% of what these people are giving. Well, they're being taken advantage. So they're trying to get legislation to eliminate the people that are doing that. That's only registered companies that can represent, so that they're kept track of by the state or the Fed, as far as how they handle it. Just to talk to the legislators once they come back into session about that type of legislation. I'll let you talk about health and human services. I just had to talk about something because otherwise I don't have anything.
You took my wind out of the sails. Anyway, go ahead.
I'll let you have it.
do we?
Well, John was there and we passed that SNAP employment training thing, and we did that. There'll be some discussion, possibility of the CHBs splitting. We're not advocating one way or the other, but they're just gonna look at, snowmobile going separate from us.
Or-
But for the funds from the state.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Some of the counties already, like Wabash County, as an example, he gave that. It's less than that 30,000 plateau and they're on their own, and there are other counties and they're gonna look at the advantages or pros or cons to continuing that. So that'll be coming up, and other than that, see, he had some funding, emergency funding. What was that about again, Bob? That RSG, and he didn't even know what RSG stood for. Unless John.
John's on, if
Yeah.
are you listening, John?
I'm up.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, RSG, I think it stands for Response Sustainability Grant. It's an extension of the public health emergency preparedness work that we've done for many years. But I think it's money that was allocated, it's ongoing appropriation, kind of in the wake of the pandemic, with things that the state is looking to have us expand our capacity in that environment. So I've talked about a couple of different funding streams that were unknown as we were budgeting for 24. One was this one. Another one is the foundational responsibilities money. That's some of that, the allocation as well as the requirements or the duties required are just coming into focus now. I think earlier in the meeting, Commissioner Johnson mentioned there's also going to be some dollars coming back from the state for public health education as it relates to the new recreational cannabis legislation. I don't know how much that is or what those duties are yet, but I am hearing that sometime toward the second half of 24, we'll have more information on that.
Okay. Thank you. I just had down emergency funding. Couple of things. I was at the La Crescent City Council last night. One of the highlights, I guess, for lack of a better word, is they're outfitting their Tesla squad car. That's gonna cost over $30,000 for equipment to outfit it. And anyway,
They get
that's
grant money for that too.
they wasn't sure on the grant, but they were authorizing fitting it.
But they save on the grant, they lose on the help.
There you go. A couple of grants came down. They're looking from on Chestnut Street from the wagon wheel bicycle bridge to South 14th, having a path built along right away to the east side there, and that's coming up. They are getting applying for a grant for engineering, and I think it's 30,000 for engineering from South 14th to Miller's Corner, and they're looking at possibility of in between the state right of way and the railroad. But, that's strictly in the planning and looking at plan this forward. A question came up here a while back on Elm Street, which is County 6 in La Crescent, and a bump out deal and the monies that we have set aside for that. The grant was denied last year. They were very close, so they think they can get the grant this year, but that's on hold. It's the redesign of County 6 / Elm Street. They're doing some work on South 6, which is in their right of way, but the bump out thing is a grant application. And then the final thing is their speed limit thing in town, it's on hold. They're trying to reduce all the streets to 25 miles per hour. Of course, that didn't apply to our county roads, and because of the possible confusion, that's on hold until further study.
Can they do 25, or does the state have a dictate as far as miles?
The state will finalize their request if they feel fit on city streets only. As Brian has indicated, county roads are under our jurisdiction. And that's about it. It was, they were short and sweet, had her done in less than 45 minutes.
I would only assume the state would want to increase it because that seems like what they want to do in other jurisdictions.
Oh, yeah. Out on Highway 16 there, that's a,
Well, there's no way you can go 60 through there.
I mean, they're crazy.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I just wanted to briefly mention,
They went to it, the signs are up.
I just wanted to briefly mention, the article in the Argus here about the juvenile detention facility that we're considering. There's a lot of good information in this article. Things that I didn't know about, and a lot of things for us to consider, and it sounds like Brian is looking into all that, so that was a good read. Learned some new things that I didn't know. And I did remember that passing, but forgot about it, about the restorative detention policy, or juvenile policies, and things that we need to consider moving forward with that. So anyway,
I got one thing that I'd like to ask
Yep.
you guys, if anybody would know about that Habitat for Humanity, they got that house in Hudson.
mhm.
They, kind of wondering what's gonna happen with it, it's sitting on a standstill, the city council wanted to ask me if I knew anything, do you guys know anything about that deal? 'Cause they had to go and board it up, because there's kids crawling in and out of the house all. And I said, they kind of like either get it finished or find out what's going on, or just gonna sit there all winter like that, or they won't have nobody telling them anything. So I just wanted to- you guys,
That would be Habitat Humanity situation with whoever is involved with all that.
well, I was told that I was supposed to get out, find a bunch of free labor and finish it.
Oh, that's how it works for Habitat Humanity. You get people, and you need, correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about this at our EDA, that you need to have the person who's going to receive the house be involved with the construction and improvement of the house. So I think that's why it's stalled out, because the person that they was gonna take that house over was pulled out or didn't happen, or I'm not sure what the deal is.
Well, there's a certain individual that owns the house,
Right,
and then.
it was a house that was moved,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was moved in, we come out in Iowa, just across the border there, it was moved in, it was Kurt Reiser's old house. Charlie Schrader lived in it for 10 years. And they moved that house in and put it on foundation. I don't know, I think, Travis Brown might have done the cement work for the basement, I'm not positive. He's just sitting there, wanting everybody to do it.
It's what you said, Eric, that the owner of the house has to have a certain percentage of equity, sweat equity in the,
Yep.
the project in order to meet the Habitat of Humanity requirements. Habitat gets the funding, gets whatnot, but if the person that was gonna get the house pulled out, it's gonna sit empty until they get it squared away, until they get somebody else to do it. On that same note, remember the $20,000 that we allocated to SEMCAC to apply for the grant? Houston County did 20, Fillmore County did 20.
The HRA thing?
Yeah, we did get that grant awarded.
Okay.
And
Oh, the matching grant?
our 20, their 100, our 20, their 200.
Oh, that's perfect.
It was, we benefit nicely in that regard, but it's like April, paperwork is still in. Well, you know how the paperwork in the state, so we gotta wait for the paperwork to get done. And then they'll come with the bill for the 20,000 and start advertising the money that's available. So it is, Fillmore County gets theirs, Houston County gets theirs.
Okay,
One last thing I want to mention.
Yep.
This is for you guys. As far as the THC business and the Office of Marijuana or whatever they're gonna call it. The only thing the county does have some say over, and I'm curious, you know, 1 per 12,500.
Yep.
Or at a minimum. if the county were to say, we are gonna allow two. In the county. Who decides what two? Is that through the state and the licensed applicant?
That's,
Or is that the county that? See, that's up in the air and depends on what the county decides and how many we're gonna allow. But
So I do, and right now is not the time, but we can talk offline and talk about bringing something formal, but. I'm heavily involved in my practice with tribal nations and.
whole different back.
That's a whole different-
I know you.
That's
talk
a
about
whole
the
different,
economic
that's a whole different rule, set of rules.
It is, but there's, in doing so, obviously I also work and advise on, cannabis dispensaries and other stuff. Nations investing. So I do have, quite a bit of knowledge from Oklahoma and California, cannabis, both from the ownership side, and from the state and local legislation side. So I do have resources that might be beneficial for y'all. And again, I know you talked about economic development today. That's well over half of my practice is in the economic development space. So, yeah, if anything we can do to help, we're happy to help out and connect with other folks that have been through what you all are going through right now.
But just as an example, you wanna start one. We've got two in Caledonia City. The liquor store is a CBD. I don't think they're ever gonna become a THC cannabis.
Dispensary.
The dispensary.
What is that? What's in the pot?
That's a CBD.
That's low,
That's the low percentage.
that's low percentage stuff, so that isn't. A dispensary is gonna be a different situation, you know, retail of marijuana.
We got two in Caledonia, there's one in, there's for sure one, maybe two in the Crescent. And if, it depends on what the county board decides, as far as how many we're gonna add.
Well, it's gonna come down to what we decide, and I talked to Sam yesterday about this. And he's gonna come forward with an email here shortly, but I don't know, the previous email, he wanted all of us to come in individually. I don't know if any of you guys have done that. Had a conversation with him,
well back, not recent.
but
And then is that just
The
gonna be
rule-
the
the
county and
law-
not the cities?
law states that we could have public health authority to limit to 1 per 12,500 and the distances between from schools, churches, and nursing homes, whatnot. And I've always said, in my way of thinking, I've been going back and forth on this, but given this is a new situation, new endeavor that's been handed down by the state, we could do one and see how it goes from there. If we don't come to an agreement on just doing one, then we might as well just let them all play.
Well,
Let the economic market dictate how many we need in Houston County.
so let's say we want one in Houston County and then the city of Caledonia's already got two. Are they gonna say?
They can't have one, they only can have one, so one of them has to be either the cannabis retailer and the other one just has to be the.
So what if they already got their license?
Doesn't matter.
But if the county declares there's only one in the county, state looks at that and that's what goes.
So we're gonna be overriding the city.
Yep.
And what
If we pass.
if we pass that, so how many battles are we gonna get from the cities if they're collecting license fees? Stuff like that, are they gonna buck us or are they gonna say we gotta do one? How many big oil, how many?
Well,
cans of worms are we
we'll
gonna-
find out. If they come to us, we'll find out. That's what I mean. We either do one or we do let them all. We ain't gonna do nothing. Just have as many as you want.
Just. No, just for you, as far as
Being aware.
being aware of what the county can do.
Yeah, well, there's examples of oversaturation in other states where, to your point, if the floodgates open and 2/3 of them end up closing shop.
Strong.
Uh, that can actually have. adverse
Supply and
effects.
demand kind of fixes that problem.
It does, and, but there's also other states where it's heavily regulated and access is an issue. And, then the ownership of particular shops and then how they maintain their shops and the crowds that go to those shops can become a problem. So there's issues both ways for sure.
Yep.
That's Brian. Right?
Brian, are you still on? Engineer Brian?
Yes, I'm on.
Hey, Brian, the LRIPs, when does that notification come out?
At this point, the plan is to make the selection by, well, notifications by either the very end of March or early April. So there was, and I can maybe pull off my notes and stuff. I believe there was about 400 applicants. It's going to take them a long time to get through them.
Okay. Well, just curious how long before we know anything about the LRIP. So it's quite a while. All right.
Yeah, another
Thank
2.5 to 3 months. Yep.
Thank you. Sorry.
Any closing public comment?
I'll just add that Spring Grove City Council approved their form for registering THC to be ready. They're only charging a small permit fee and then background check fees. But if you're gonna pass it, you know, you might want to let the cities know that that's coming.
Mhm.
They can't take too many
Mhm.
registration.
Anything else? No, any other public comment? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you.